day 3 of our 7 days of calm. So I thought maybe we'd start kneeling today actually, so let's kneel. And just notice how it feels to kneel. Just notice how it feels to kneel. And I apologise, or do I apologise? I do apologise, of course, because those of you that struggle to kneel are going to find it difficult to be in this position, aren't you? Vidrasana. So we won't stay here indefinitely, but we'll just notice how it feels to kneel. And then we might see if we can find more of our feet in this position. So we were finding feet in day 2, and now we're going to find the feet again, the ball of the big toe, little toe, and more of the heel. And maybe we find more of the inner knees, or the knees turning inwards a little bit towards one another. And the thigh bones finding a deeper place in the pelvis, and a more spacious place, as if you're filling this space behind the hips, but not because you're pushing into it. You're exploring it in terms of the relationship with space. And some of you might find your hands don't find the earth, and that's fine. You can have the fingertips on the earth. And we'll take the arm bones deeper back in the shoulder joints without taking the whole rib cage back. And it's the same with thigh bones go back without taking the whole pelvis back. And then maybe we don't need to force ourselves to sit up so tall. And then let's just take the hands up, away from the earth, and maybe just even close your eyes, because I want you just in your hands to find me happy hands. Where are your happy hands? And where are your sad hands? It's a shame I can't actually see what you're doing. I'm always curious about this. And then where are your angry hands? Because I'm pretty sure we all do virtually the same thing. And then where are your weary hands? And how about your anxious hands? And then how about your loving hands? And your tender hands? And find more of the tender hands. And notice how the hands become lighter. And notice how they come closer into the heart, the tenderer they become. So it's like on some level, the upper arm bones go deeper into the shoulders, as if you're bringing your hands closer into your heart. Your hands are an extension of the heart. I don't know if you knew that or not. Those of you who are Reiki attuned will be using your hands to channel Reiki, of course, through your heart. Okay, so with your lovely, really tender and loving hands, let's see if they can find the earth as we come up onto our knees. So take a breath in, breath out. Don't take the hands too far away from your knees. Just let the loving, tender hands find the earth, and the sitting bones come up away from the heels. And then we'll bring in the idea, and I like this, I like working with this, that we're looking over a sea wall, okay? So maybe just ahead of your hands, maybe like another hand distance ahead of your hands, is the edge of a sea wall. And I say a sea wall because that's what I'm most familiar with in Guernsey, is literally spending years of doing this because of surfing and always looking for other people on the beach, is kind of jumping up onto a sea wall and looking over a sea wall, peering over to see what's the other side of it, if my friends are on the beach or not, or to look over and see what the surf is doing. So we're peering forward over the seawall, and just notice what that does to the rest of the body. So notice how that probably takes your head further forward in space. Notice what that does to your neck, and how it might take your arm bones deeper back almost in the shoulder joints. And notice, so really do feel that you are peering over the seawall, and notice what that does through your pelvis. And actually what we'll do is tuck the toes under here. So tuck the toes under in such a way that you don't lose the roundness of your heels, which is really tricky, and especially as you're still peering over your imaginary sea wall. And so you'll probably be on the heel of the hands, right? Can you notice that? Feel into the heel of the hands. And notice the palms of the hands as well. So much to notice. The armpits, we can even notice our armpits. Okay, so we're going to keep peering over our imaginary sea wall. Now remember that we were looking at groins yesterday and the fabric at the top of the leg, so we want to still retain the softness of that fabric. And we still want to look over the imaginary sea wall as we take a breath in and a breath out. And slowly the knees come away from the earth. And we're not trying to make a shape. This is, in theory, it's downward facing dog, but it doesn't have to look a certain way. Not really. I mean, right now, we're in downward facing dog on a sea wall. So we're still looking over our sea wall. There's still a sense of being able to look over it, which will do something through your front body. It might make it a little bit more spacious actually. So the heels don't need to find the earth, and the buttocks go up in the air, but not because you're forcing them up. So remember, thigh bones are almost going back in the pelvis, and there's a softness through the inner thighs, as if you had tendrils on your inner thighs, and they're blowing back behind you, as if there's like, as if the sea, we're looking over the sea wall. There's an onshore breeze coming at the space between your hands and through your legs, and yeah, taking the tendrils. Well, the seaweed, you could have seaweed growing off your inner thighs, couldn't you? Okay, I'm getting really carried away now with the sea thing. But here we are. Just notice how that feels through the upper back. Notice the shoulder blades, breathe. Oh, and then I'm sure you probably by now want to release on an exhalation, nice and gently, the most precious things in the world, your knees, the rounds of your knees, as if you had the moon in each knee coming down onto the earth. There we go. And then let's take the tops of the feet flat to the mat. And then let's come down onto our tummies from here. Okay, so you're on your tummies. And let's have should we have the elbows underneath the shoulders? So elbows underneath the shoulders if you can, approximately. And your hands on the earth. Okay. And then let's just tuck the toes under for a moment. And almost like from your heels down to your backs of the knees. Imagine that there's like seawater running from your heels down to the backs of your knees. So make the knees such that you can collect that seawater at the back of them. And so maybe you need to do something through your thighs as well to collect into the back of the knees. Okay, and then we might from there take the tops of the feet flat to the mat again without pulling them away, so the feet are still awake. And then we're still looking over our imaginary sea wall, so the hands are still allowing us to look over our imaginary sea wall. And we'll take a breath in and a breath out and just see what that does to the upper back. So notice your tailbone not gripping the space around the tailbone. Still that connection of the thighs and the torso, the fabric. Looking over your imaginary sea wall, hands feeling your forearms, no doubt, assisting you to look over your imaginary sea wall. And you can breathe here. Ooh. And then on an exhalation, release your head all the way down. And maybe you rest one hand on top of the other hand and just rest on one side of your face. And breathe. Okay, and then what we'll do now is release the forehead down. And just take your arms down beside your body with the palms facing towards the ceiling. And then what will we do? We'll just lift one shoulder and the other shoulder up and just notice that. One shoulder up and then the other shoulder up and just notice that. And then let them settle down in the direction of the earth. And we'll do the opposite of that. So we'll take a breath and we'll lift the right hand and the right arm up with the right shoulder down towards the earth, okay? Right shoulder down towards the earth. And bend your right elbow up towards the ceiling. And in towards the centre of your bag. And then keep all that as you pop your right hand underneath your right shoulder again. And then we'll do the opposite on the other side. So we'll keep the left shoulder down. We won't do the opposite, we'll do exactly the same, just on the other side. Keep the left shoulder down. We'll take a breath in and lift the left hand up. Then the elbow up towards the ceiling and in towards the centre of your back. And then pop the left hand underneath the left shoulder. So your shoulder blades are free of one another. You're not drawing your shoulders back away from the earth or away from the ears. Okay, and then let's notice the feet on the earth. So we'll notice the tops of the feet, but notice the ball of the big toe, the little toe, and the heel. And actually what we'll do is we'll just tuck the toes under, so we can feel even more of the heels. And again, it's that idea of water running down the back of your legs, from your heels to the back of your knees, collecting like little puddles, like little rock pools in the back of your knees.
And actually we'll intensify that, because if we try, let's see if we can try and lift, I'm sure we can, the pubic bone away from the mat. Not to lift the sitting bones up towards the ceiling, but just so the pubic bone comes up in space, and the thigh bones go deeper back in the pelvis, okay? Deeper back, so you're not lifting the sitting bones up, not like sometimes we do in the 8-limb pose. The pubic bone comes up, or the pubic bones come up, but the thigh bones go deeper back in the pelvis. And so it's like water runs down the back of your thighs as well. I hope I haven't lost everyone. Probably I have, right? Okay. So then, we'll release with all that, keep the pelvis like that. So you'll notice tailbone, a little bit of freedom in the tailbone. Release the feet back to the earth. Let there be a little bit of weight in the tailbone. Notice the back of the navel centre. Tailbone, navel centre having a relationship. And we'll start to take a breath in, breath out, and lift the chest away from the earth. So the chest comes up, comes up, comes up, comes up. The pubic bone will probably go down. And see if you can still breathe, still breathe, still breathe. Keep going. Hands still peering over the sea wall. So now we come back to the idea of staring, looking, peering over the sea wall. Keep breathing, keep breathing. Stop when it becomes too much. Don't tense around the tailbone. There's a freedom. There's a freedom. And still you're looking over the imaginary sea wall. Still you're looking over the imaginary sea wall. So the hands aren't pressing away from the earth. They're resting into the earth. And the arm bones go even deeper back than you could possibly imagine in your shoulders. So the arms might straighten, but not because you're pressing them down and drawing the shoulders away. Far from it. The hands and the shoulders have an even deeper relationship with one another, and you're still looking over your sea wall as you come into Bhujangasana, and you're not forcing this. There's still freedom from the back of your navel centre, tailbone, tailbone, thigh bone, still the little collection of water in the back of the knees, and then we'll take a breath in, and as you breathe out, slowly come all the way down to the earth. So I think for many years, certainly I practiced that posture where I was pushing the hands down. I had this idea that shoulders need to be away from the ears and the elbows need to be bent into the side of the body, and I actually was just creating more and more tension for myself around the lungs. Actually, I wasn't able to breathe when I was trying to practice that posture, and now I've just found this other way to be in it that allows the breath, more of the breath. More freedom, I think. That's how it feels. I start to notice more of the tension around the heart space though. That's the only problem. I think often the way we move and practice can actually almost deepen our samskaras, so our paths, our trodden paths, they get deeper, not shallower. We have to be careful what we're feeding. Okay, so maybe we can take a breath in and breath out and come all the way onto our knees from here, back on the knees. And I want you to find your feet again and find that sense of the inner knees. Just a little bit as if the knees wanted to turn in towards one another. And there's a broadening, there's a sense of the space around the pelvis, okay? A sense of space around the pelvis. And the sitting bones have seen the heels, but they're not going to change their position in relationship to anything else. It's just that they've seen the heels. And they're curious, they're always curious. And we'll take a breath in, and a breath out, and a breath in, and a breath out. So the sitting bones. So we're not tucking the tailbone under, we're not sticking it out either. We're doing neither of those two things. As always, it's the path of least resistance. Now find that fabric at the top of the thighs, find the inner groins there, softness, softness, softness. There's this lip of the thighs coming over, protecting, protecting, protecting. And just before your sitting bones, actually find your heels. Now, I still need to look it up, what it is. It's a cat, right, that doesn't have any fur. I can't think what it is. I should know, I'm sorry, I can't remember. You can let me know. Anyway, I want you to imagine you're one of those cats, a wise cat. And you've got, they've got really wrinkly skin, that's where I'm bringing them to mind. So I want you to feel that wrinkly skin on yourself as you come into Balasana, pose of a child. So the hands can just stay on the earth, resting on the earth, the arm bones up, back, in the shoulders, so your shoulders aren't rounding and dragging you down. The head is heavy, don't let it drag you down, it's connected to the spine, remember. So here we are, we're coming through the spine, so you feel a deepening here in your groins, I would imagine, in your hips. And the legs, the feet, the hands, the feet, they've got the spine coming down, 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 wrinkly back, think about a wrinkly back.
Lovely, hey? So not a stretch back. We don't want to stretch the back. We don't want to let the shoulders round the upper back, because that's not actually setting the heart free, contrary to what you might think. It's actually tightening it, the back of the heart space. Just keeping all that stuff that we shove to the back of the heart space stuck there, really. Because we don't want to feel it, right? Of course, it's too painful. That's why it's at the back of the heart, all that sadness, all that grief that hasn't been actually expressed, possibly. So the head might find the earth, it might not. And we can just rest here with our really lovely wrinkly back in Balasana, pose of a child. And still the feet are attentive, and there's still that very gentle, like turning in through the knees. So breathe. Notice where you feel stuck. Do you feel stuck through your sacrum? Is there a pulling on your lower spine? Is there a sticking somewhere up the spine? Back of the navel centre? Possibly. Okay, and then we'll take a breath in and a breath out. And slowly, slowly, head comes up. Weight of the tailbone down. Here we come. And let's take one standing pose from here. Let's take an Uttanasana. So, slowly. We're running up time, the toes can find the earth. And then let's just come on to the toes and bring your hands quite close to your feet. Okay, so ball of big toe, little toe, find the earth. And then the heels, let the heels find the earth. The tummy, the thighs are in relationship to one another. Softness, those tendrils through the inner thighs. The sea breeze is still blowing between your hands, between your legs, taking the tendrils of the inner thighs back behind and sort of up inside you actually as well. So there's still that sense of something turning a teeny weeny bit in towards each other through the knees, broadening through the hips. Now the buttocks are going up, but don't push them up. Don't push your sitting bones up. Don't do any of that. Just explore what happens. Feet. And let's not forget, feet and hands. Hands are looking over your imaginary wall. Hands are still looking over your imaginary wall. Still looking over your imaginary wall. So the wall's just a bit ahead of your hands and you're having to really peer over. So it's a little bit like you're not sure if you're going to come into a handstand actually. Not because you're pushing the hands down necessarily, but because they've got you as you're looking over the wall. And yet still there's a sense of the ball of the big toe, the little toe and the heels, right? And the tendrils, the softness through the inner thighs, and that beautiful fabric around the outside of your legs as they contact the pelvis. And this is still around the back as well, think about that. So that's why we're not lifting the sitting bones up at all. And then we soften, so the sacrum goes deeper, and we soften. And the arm bones deeper in the shoulders, and there's hopefully no rounding in the upper spine, no gripping. Obviously some of you are not going to be able to straighten your legs completely. Sorry, I forget that. So you might have to have your hands on your feet or your hands on your shins, but still feel as if you're looking over a seat wall, okay? So stop when you start to do these conditioned kind of like, I must straighten my legs and I must look like I'm doing the posture, which means I'm going to round my spine and compromise my spine and just repeat more of that kind of chest collapsing movement that I've been doing most of my life, and that really probably I need to stop doing because it's actually not serving me anymore. And yes, I might have to look at the emotions that are trapped somewhere within, but that's fine. But maybe my anxiety might ease and my stress might ease, and I might have a calmer state of mind, because there'll be less inattention, less ignoring what's going on inside that I don't want to look at. Something like that anyway. Okay, let's take a breath in and a breath out, and let's come all the way. Bend the knees. Don't let the buttocks drag you down, never let them drag you down. Inner thighs, still softness, looking forward. This is when some of you that practice your Bakasana actually, I can't resist it when I'm here. Hands come to the earth. You're still looking over your imaginary sea wall. You're still looking over your imaginary sea wall. You haven't lost, the buttocks haven't dragged you down, right? There's a lightness. You've got your inner thighs. You bend your elbows like we did earlier in one of the poses anyway, Sphinx. Elbows elbows bend back towards the back of the room, but the arm bones go into the shoulders come forward like they did in Bhujangasana, and the inner thighs, tendrils still going back. Hands have got you, keep looking ahead over your imaginary sea wall, not that you'd be mad enough to do this on the sea wall, unless you were showing off maybe. And there we are, looking over the sea wall, and then the feet can find the earth again. And then, do you know what, we're just going to let that all go and come to rest. Come to rest, you're done. Breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. And I feel even I need to take a breath in, breath out after all that. And then I'll leave you there. Please, please, please do stay there just a little bit, even if it's just a minute. Just rest, let it all settle. Don't rush off, just be. And I'll see you on day 4, so thank you.